Allie.
Hi, Helen. What did he just do?
So this is our first time filming an episode. So Goobs did a clap so that we can sync the sound to the visuals.
Oh, okay.
In the editing process. He scared the dogs. Reg just fucked right off down there and Molly just looks disturbed. It's all right, babe. You're okay. Well, we're at my house today. We're not in the studio.
No.
So that's why it looks...
to visit for New Year.
Yes.
It's a very grey day, though.
It is a grey day, but... Well, that's good, though, because today's story is spooky and nasty and grey and horrible.
So it just adds to the atmosphere.
Exactly. What have you been up to?
What I've been up to? Well, it was Christmas. Mm-hmm. We had some plans. Plans changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mum came round, Mark's parents came round, and it was a jolly old day. Very chilled. Very relaxed.
You're right.
Okay. Started early today. Yeah, chilled, relaxed. Mum slept on the sofa. Yeah, but we enjoyed it, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we are filming this, but you still can't see Goobs. He's still a mystery.
So if we look into the distance, we're not staring longingly into like looking for a will to live. We're actually looking at Mark.
Or at a ghost.
Yeah.
It's Goober. It's the Goobs.
And he would have got away with it if it wasn't for those pesky kids.
He would have done, yeah. He's like, shut up, you two idiots. Right. So today, Allie and Goober and listener, we are talking about a disaster at Luna Park, specifically the deadly ghost train. So, I know you know this, but I'm repeating it for the listeners, ? I've always had an interest in theme parks, fairgrounds, carnivals, especially abandoned or spooky ones, as we know. I just think they're haunting, they're fascinating. I love the colours, the lights, the architecture and the artwork. And I'm not entirely sure where this comes from, but it is almost like an obsession. But I've definitely had this obsession since I was a kid. And the only thing I can think may have triggered it, but like in a good way, is the intro and outro to a cartoon of Dungeons and Dragons back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And so
I didn't know you were a D&D fan.
Wow, only of that cartoon.
Okay.
So if you don't know the story or specifically the cartoon, they go on this Dungeons and Dragons ride, and they end up in another realm. And they, with the help of Dungeon Master, they battle the evil Venger.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. And the beginning and the end of it, it was, obviously it's a fairground amusement park, it's quite spooky because they go on a ride and they end up in another realm. And then at the end, the closing credits, all theme park, it's like sunset and it's all like shut down and it's really spooky. And I was just fascinated by it. And there was a unicorn in it called Uni. And so I had a cuddly unicorn and I called it Uni after the character from Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't know if you want to go one deeper and say it's like a manifestation of how the world is collapsing as well.
Yeah, if so, I started being interested in that literally when I was a tot. So yeah, that's a long, well, I suppose it is kind of going downhill, isn't it? But what are your thoughts on theme parks? I mean, I'm obsessed with them. Do you like them?
I used to. I used to absolutely. I was a bit of an adrenaline junkie and things like that. So send me on one of the like real fast roller coasters, the ones that like do that.
For anyone who's not watching the video, that was some sort of an indication of a steep drop.
Yes, yeah. But then when I had my really bad car accident, can't stand them. They put the fear of God into me. And I remember when we all went for like Halloween at Alton Towers, and we're all stood waiting for rides, and I'm shaking. I'm like, no, I can't do it. Because I just always think something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, and also Final Destination.
Yes.
Which is scary. Goobs has written us a note, which we can't read. I think we're supposed to be doing it so that no one can tell that we're reading notes. It's fine. We'll leave this in because that's us being silly, not Goobs. Okay, so It was an amusement park at Milson's Point in Sydney, which opened in the 1930s, 1935 to be exact. And the whole aesthetic of this place was like an Art Deco fantasy. And the name Luna Park actually comes from the H.G. Wells novel, A Trip to the Moon.
Ooh, okay.
And the main inspiration for the park was Luna Park on Coney Island in New York, which was very successful.
See, I've been to Coney Island.
You have?
But it was shut.
Oh, no, is that true?
Yeah.
Oh.
So the one thing I wanted to do when I went to New York was go to Coney Island. Went there. It was shut. I mean, we could do like little bits and pieces and get some food and whatnot. But yeah, I was very disappointed. So disappointed. I didn't realise it was shut. Like, it's only open certain times of the year. So I was like, I'm so disappointing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. So you're probably wondering what the connection is between Luna Park, a ghost train, and Cars and the Macabre. Well, this is a story about the ill-fated ghost train, and ghost trains, roller coasters, etc. have cars to transport thrill seekers through rides.
Aye, they do.
So there it is. It's a type of car connection made. Boom. Okay.
Like it. Brilliant.
Sorted.
That works.
And it's spooky and it's fascinating. So as well as the internet, my main kind of source of information of this disaster is the Netflix docuseries Exposed, the Ghost Train Fire. I highly recommend watching it. It's a 3-part sort of mini-series. Mm-hmm. It's very, very in-depth. It's a very tough watch. This is a tough story, so trigger warning, for just everything we ever say. But I would definitely recommend watching it because they do so many interviews with first responders, family members, witnesses. So they've literally got kind of all angles covered. It's very good. Okay. Very, very good. And it would be impossible to try and cover everything in an episode.
So I'm really excited about this because I know nothing. Like, you didn't even tell me which episode we were doing, so
it's very exciting. Well, I had never heard of... I'd heard of Luna Park in Australia, but I didn't know about the disaster until I watched the docuseries.
Oh, okay.
And then I went on to do more research from sort of old articles and things like that. It's awful, but it is very interesting. Mm-hmm. So, a little bit more about the park itself. So Luna Park was the place to go. People who worked there loved it so much that they actually wore their park T-shirts out and about because it was so cool.
Okay.
They're like, yeah, I work at Luna Park.
Busman's holiday.
Very proudly. And it was a destination for adults and kids. It was a really big deal. Mm-hmm. It was always busy. And a big part of its popularity was due to the location. So it was in a really prime space. It was set right on the water, opposite Sydney Opera House.
Oh, fab.
So imagine, amusement park right on the water in the sunshine or at night with the lights on. It's beautiful. It's also very important to remember this beautiful location.
Okay. I'll keep this one in mind.
Keep it in mind. And the park saw a huge success over the years with the addition of different rides over time. And it ran really smoothly under the management of showman David Atkins until 1957 and engineer Ted Hopkins until 1969. And he was known as Mr. Luna Park. Oh. So, it's got a lovely reputation, as well as the people who run it, own it, love it. In the 1970s, so this is moving on a little bit, a group of artists were commissioned to redecorate the park.
That would be like your dream job.
Oh my God, would it? I know. If you look at, I'm going to put photos on Instagram, of course, like we always do. It's just so eerie. There's just something about the artwork.
You could literally do that and then you'd be like, right, I can die happy now.
No, it would be amazing.
Fulfilled my purpose.
Anybody wants me to do that, please let me know. And so Martin Sharp was one of these artists. He was kind of the main creative of this project. He was a massive fan of Luna Park. And at the time, he was a famous pop artist in Australia and a leading radical at the time. So
nice.
He's a bit of a...
propaganda art.
He really was.
Guerrilla art.
So Sharp was the main creative. He absolutely loved the theme park. So he did a load of... When you Google it, you will see like the creepy face of Luna Park and like he repainted all of that. And yeah, it's very, very cool. And once you've seen it, it's really easy to go, oh yeah, you've probably seen it before. Do you know what I mean? Easily recognisable. So us spooky bitches all love a ghost train, don't we?
We do love a ghost train.
And of course, Luna Park had a ghost train, which was actually reported to be one of the original rides from the 1930s.
Oh, fab. Okay.
So that had been there a long time.
Oh, that's historical.
Big part of the history. And when I was researching, several park goers and Luna Park employees expressed how popular the ghost train was. Sometimes there'd be lines of 50, 60 people waiting to jump on and experience it.
See, I like that because modern ghost trains aren't... they're not as spooky now.
No, I mean, this may make you more scared of ghost trains after this story.
I don't think... See, that's the thing. I'm not scared of the ghost train.
No.
There's no, like, steep drops and stuff.
No, but it's not that. Like, in my mind, it's the same as the horror mazes. What if there's a psychopath
something real?
in there?
Yeah. I mean, that's always going through our heads whenever we do these things. Like,
Exactly.
I could die.
Exactly. So, you know. And as with other ghost trains, you would ride around in a small car, connection there, and it would only fit a few people inside it. I mean, you've been on a ghost train, you know there's only like little space for people. And you'd be taken through sort of twists and turns like a maze, and the whole attraction is designed to confuse you. And it was described as being pitch black inside, and it was only illuminated by like fluorescent paints and minimal lighting. They had props in there, sort of like mannequins and skeletons and things like that. It was quite crude because it was an older ride.
Yeah.
And they had modernised it, but it was by no means sort of technologically advanced. I'm not even going to try and say that again. You know what I mean.
Brilliant.
So there's a section of the ghost train where the cars go sort of out of the ghost train and sort of back into the park a little bit. So when you're waiting in line, you can see it. And then it goes back through some other kind of doors and then back into the sort of twisty-turny maze. At this particular point, as it re-enters the ghost train from outside, there was a sort of crude imitation fireplace. And it would, like, you could see it was a bit basic, you know. It was kind
Stanky.
of... Skanky.
Stanky.
It was just basically made up of coloured lights. It had fans and then fabric streamers which were kind of blown up to make it look like flames. Really basic. Really basic. But again, very important to remember. And then after that, it continues. You go sort of back through the darkness. So you kind of get the idea of the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like most ghost trains. So now you know a little bit about Luna Park and its ghost train. I'm going to take you back to a busy Sunday night. Are you going back?
I'm going back.
You're going back.
I'm going back in my mind.
Busy Sunday night on the 9th of June in 1979 around 10 p.m.
Okay.
So it's nearing the end of the night and people are enjoying the last rides before the park shuts down. A group of kids are waiting to jump on board the ghost train, a few older groups of teens, and then there's a father with his two young sons. They were actually waiting for his wife, their mother. She'd popped to get an ice cream. So they were waiting for her to get back to go on the ghost train with her. So some of the older teens were at the front of the queue, enjoying themselves, and they sort of like jump in a car, ride through the dark twists and turns on the ghost train.
So was it just like one car that went through at any one time? Or was it a string of them?
Yeah, so the ride operator would control when the cars went through.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a gap in between, so you didn't get
Sure.
too many people going at once. So, yeah, there was a little, I mean, I don't know how long, but you didn't want them all bunched up together. So they were separate. They were going through separately.
Okay.
So when they went through and saw the crude fireplace, the kind of, you know, the pretend streamers and things, they actually saw a real fire there.
Oh.
And one of them actually touched the flame, like reached out to touch the flame. So they're like, wow, that looks real.
Yeah.
And they were real flames. But obviously the cars are still going. They quickly pass that section and they think, well, it's a fire in a fireplace. They don't think any more of it. You know, they perhaps weren't to know that there's anything odd about that.
Okay.
Because it's there, you know? You're not going to really question it.
They've upgraded.
They think it's part of the attraction, part of the fantasy. They're not suspicious. They carry on through. The rest of the people in line don't see anything suspicious either, until the second group of older teens enter the ghost train. Okay, so this is another group of older teens, and these are all eyewitnesses that they interview on the docuseries. It's really fantastic. They do such a good job of it. And when they go through, the situation starts to take a bit of a deadly turn because they can smell smoke. Yeah. Not as in smoke machine smoke, as in fire smoke. Yeah. And as they continue through the ride, it's starting to get thicker. They can also see flames, which are starting to spread inside up the walls. So they're not just on this fireplace now, they're spreading. And they realise that the smoke and the flames are not part of the attraction and that the ghost train is on fire. So as they then enter or kind of go to the outside part of the ghost train, they try and escape. But this outside section of the ghost train has a cage around it to stop people jumping in and out of the ride.
But if they had done that, they could have just stayed in that position in the cagey bit. And then when the car went through, the person would have realised they're out of there. There's a problem.
That's not what happened.
No, but...
that didn't happen.
But that's what should have happened.
Yeah.
So they should have jumped out.
I think maybe if somebody's in a panic, perhaps they're not thinking...
Fight, flight, all of that, yeah.
Exactly. So, and they think, oh, we're coming to the outside bit. Yes, it's got a cage around it, but perhaps they think we can get over the cage, get out the cage. But no, it's completely enclosed by this cage. So
yeah, but there would have been room on either side for them to stand.
But that's not what happened, Allie. They could have stood there.
I ruin everything. Anyway,
no. It's a good discussion point. They could have stood there, but they were still trapped inside the ghost train. Although they were outside, they were still within the ghost train.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah? You're right.
Fine.
Okay. I know you... Okay, so if it was you, you'd get out of the car and stand there.
Yeah.
But you would then be trapped in a cage.
But I'd be outside, so the air...
Trapped in a cage.
But they would have known that I wasn't in the car when it went in again.
Okay.
That's
all right.
Yeah. Please carry on.
No, what is it? No question is a bad question?
No question is a stupid question.
One of them, anyway.
There's no such thing as stupid questions.
No such thing as stupid questions. So, okay. I could go back a bit now. So, as I say, the aforementioned outside part of the ride, they did try and escape, but they can't actually physically exit the ride because it's all caged in.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I know you would have got out. Yeah. I know you would have got out. But in their mind, there's no way out. And the ghost train is pretty much turning into a death trap at this point. And they remain in the cars, which then re-enter the ride through some doors. And as they go through this set of doors back in, they see absolutely huge flames. It is an inferno at this point. The walls are blazing, the fire is roaring, they're screaming, fire, fire. But their cries are lost in the loud atmosphere of the park. You're not going to hear that. And the teens begin to actually jump out of the ghost train whilst the ghost train cars, whilst it's in the ghost train itself, in the little building. And they try and find an exit, but it's really confusing because it's a dark maze. So, you're not really going to easily find a sort of lit exit because it's not, it's the 70s.
You'd only know if you've been working there for a while.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But when the group who'd seen the fire finally got out, so they did get out, they were yelling to stop sending cars inside, but not realising the enormity of the situation, the ride operators ignore them and send in waiting groups of kids. Oh. So the young boys who were waiting. And then the father with his two sons had decided not to wait for his wife, and he jumped in a car with his two sons, and they went through. So these young schoolboys have gone through, and then the father and his two sons. This whole thing, honestly, I recommend you watching the documentary.
Yeah, I shall.
It is just because you know what's going to happen, but it's just like, oh, please don't go in there, or like surely something can change. It just gives me the chills. It really does. It's just horrible. So witnesses outside at this time report screams, smoke and flames, and they see cars coming out of the ride on fire. The whole ride is engulfed. The blaze has quickly spread and taken over everything. Park employees run into the fire as it dawns on everyone that there are still people inside. But as the two men sort of battle through this thick smoke, so imagine how smoky it is in there. It's an enclosed space.
To see, and then also you're suffocating with the smoke.
Exactly.
As well. So,
and, they've sort of put the lights on and they've got a torch, but it's not really much good.
And with the heat and stuff, like you've got the smoke inhalation, but then it's the heat of the smoke as well that's going to start sort of burning from the inside out.
Absolutely. Like I just can't. I can't imagine it. I don't want to imagine it. So there's two of the park workers have gone back in, but one of them just can't keep up and he runs back outside. The remaining park worker continues on. He can see people running around in terror and confusion inside the ghost train, and they're running into walls. That they're just trying to get out. It's just complete and utter mayhem. And he can also still see that cars are still moving through, and at this point they're piling up and just banging into each other. He managed to actually get out sort of 6 or 7 people. He sort of guided them outside. And the other worker that had to go back out, he had found a fire extinguisher and he was trying his best.
What heroes.
But
Bless him.
A fire extinguisher on a blazing inferno, it was kind of futile, which is just so sad. And the lack of any appropriate health and safety equipment just renders everybody completely helpless.
Yes.
There's nothing they can do. People are trying to go back in, but it's an awful situation. But the first ride operator who rescued these 6 or 7 people, he actually heads back in. So brave. Absolutely. I don't know what you don't know what you're going to do in that situation, but it's just, and when you watch the documentary, he's so haunted by it. It's really, takes your breath away. He heads back inside the blazing ghost train and he sees the father huddled with his 2 young sons, and he sees the group of young boys who were sent in as the other group had come out to let everyone know it was on fire. But he can't get to them. It's just become impossible for him to continue because the heat from the flames is so intense. The choking smoke just stops him in his tracks. Everything is igniting so fast at this point, and it just makes it impossible for him to go any further. 11 cars became trapped inside that lethal inferno, and 7 innocent people died on Luna Park's ghost train that night.
Oh, it's harrowing.
Isn't it awful? It's just like,
And
my
I guess
skin's
the
just
dad
going.
with the 2 boys and the group of kids.
Tell you.
Okay.
So remember I'd said the dad with the 2 kids, the mum and or wife, Jenny Godson, had gone to grab an ice cream. She lost her entire family in the blaze. Her husband John and 2 young sons, Craig and Damien, were trapped in the ghost train, and they literally burnt to death in front of her eyes. They were all on holiday in Sydney at the time, a treat that they had been saving up for. And the kids had never seen the ocean, so, it was like a dream holiday for them. The other victims were a group of school friends. There was Richard Carroll, Jonathan Billings, Seamus Rahilly, I think it's Rahilly or Riley, not quite sure, I should have double checked that, but I think it's Rahilly, and Michael Johnson. And it was their first time out, as we say, as a group of friends without their parents. And they were super excited about the whole thing, and they'd actually wanted a ride on the Dodgems as their last ride before the park closed, but when they got there, the barrier had already been put up, so they headed for the ghost train. One of their group miraculously survived the inferno. Jason Holman was in a separate car to them, and as it was about to go in the ghost train, someone pulled him to safety. So he survived, literally, by the skin of his teeth. And it's with Jason that this tragic accident becomes something else entirely. So, I know it's awful. It is just so awful. And it doesn't matter how many times I see the documentary, read stuff, it doesn't get any less awful.
No.
And I know I keep going on about the documentary, but with a lot of these things, the true crime stories especially, I do find myself a little bit desensitized because in my head it's a movie playing out.
Yeah.
But when you watch this documentary, because they're talking to the parents, because they're talking to eyewitnesses, park employees, people who are like breaking down on camera, who 40 years later are still absolutely haunted and traumatized by it. Is just, honestly, it's heart-wrenching.
I've got like goosebumps.
Yeah, I do. It is such a sad story. So, have you got any sort of ideas from hearing the story so far of what you think may have happened? What would be like your instant, oh, it must be that?
Well, obviously the materials that were in the fireplace, but arson maybe? Or, I don't know, like a fuse or something.
But it's a bit random, isn't it? Like, you don't really expect someone to light a ghost train on fire. Like, it doesn't really make any sense initially.
Or a ghost.
Or, a very naughty poltergeist.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, but it could have been.
Well, yeah.
You never know.
I think they'd look into arson, definitely.
Yeah, okey-dokey. So, it does all sound like a tragic accident, but many people believe that the fire was set intentionally.
Oh.
But why?
Yeah.
Why do you set a ghost train on fire?
A gruntled ex-employee,
Oh, that's a good... Yeah, I'd never thought about that.
maybe.
Yeah, that would be a motive, wouldn't it?
Yeah. A psychopath.
Another...
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first thing I would think of. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few possibilities there, but witnesses on the night, including park employees, bystanders, and those who had escaped the blaze, reported a huge explosion, likening it to a bomb going off, as if there was something accelerating the fire.
Yeah.
So it wasn't I'm going to say a normal fire burning, but a fire just burning things out, and there was nothing stored in there that would have meant an explosion occurred.
Yeah.
So it's quite strange. And when firefighters arrived at the scene, some of them recall it being one of the worst fires they've ever attended. The intense heat, lack of information about who was actually trapped inside, and zero water pressure on site made it just an absolute clusterfuck. So, like, they were fighting before they got there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so hard for them. And eventually they managed to pump water from the harbour. But at this stage, the fire had destroyed the structure and those trapped inside. It was a case of trying to stop it spreading any further.
Yeah.
But, they pretty much thought whoever was in there probably couldn't be saved unless they'd managed to escape.
Yeah.
So once the flames were out, the firefighters, police, and Department of Labour and Industry officials had to sift through the debris and ashes to try and find the remains of victims. And they also looked for clues as to what started the deadly inferno. But strangely enough, by 3 p.m. the following day, so this all sort of began around 10 o'clock that night, the fire was put out, it was just after midnight.
Right.
And by 3 p.m. the next day, it was reported by Detective Inspector Douglas Knight, who was in charge of the investigation, that an electrical fault was to blame. Case solved.
Okay.
That was it. I mean, it's very, this is what happened, definitive.
Yeah, cut and dry. Yeah.
But firefighters who attended found this to be highly unlikely, and this announcement actually came as a shock to many people, as the scene was completely totaled. So to gather definitive details and solid information that quickly would have been very, very tricky.
Yeah.
Like, nearly impossible.
Well, an investigation goes on for a while, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Not a
Not
few
a few hours.
hours.
Exactly. So despite this, the scene was completely cleared within hours. So there were no forensics, no further investigations of the site. There were no remnants of the ghost train remaining. There was nothing left to see.
That's not an investigation.
No.
So an investigation wasn't done, really.
And the majority of the public, including family members of the victims, believed the findings because it was told to them by police.
This is the thing. These are professionals that you're supposed to trust. They're there to protect you, preserve life, that kind of thing. So yeah, you take what they say and be like, okay, well, you're in an authoritative position. I believe you. I trust you.
Yeah, and also that they've just lost family members, so they're
the grief then comes into it, and your head's all over the place anyway. So okay, right. Well, you've dealt with that bit, so thank you for what you've done, what you found, blah 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 blah. Now I can concentrate on the fact that I've lost my family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's and it is, the whole thing is tragic, and when they're talking to the families, there was some of them, the mums and dads were just hoping that maybe the boys had escaped and they were going to come through the door. And actually, when one of the mums to one of the young boys went to, they just felt like they had to go to the site, and they went and laid a flower there, and she was actually taken back by the fact there was nothing there. She expected to see ruins of the ride and, a crime scene, a scene of a disaster, but there was nothing there. It was just the floor was left and that was it. And she thought that was a little bit odd.
Yeah.
So they accepted what they were told, because what else are they going to do? Mm-hmm. They're already suffering this awful tragedy. And however, though, some folks, including Martin Sharp, who, as I mentioned, was the artist and a proponent of the park, were convinced from the word go that this was no accident, it was arson, claiming the whole thing was a cover-up by Detective Inspector Douglas Knight, and that witnesses from the night of the fire had seen some nefarious goings-on that suggested it was anything but an electrical fault. So he did a lot of investigating over his years, and he died in October of 2013. 2013, sorry.
2010.
2010. You know what I'm like with the numbers. I can't speak today. So he died in October of 2013, and he left Jason, who was the surviving schoolboy, with 200 tapes of interviews he'd conducted, thousands of pages of research on the tragedy, reports and interviews. So there was a room full of evidence that Martin had collected. He'd spoken to so many people, and until the day he died, he was certain that was arson, and he wanted Jason to continue. Yeah. So he did. The official press release at the time said that four independent statements had been taken from witnesses who reported seeing electrical sparks in and around the ghost train, which supported the electrical fault theory. Mm-hmm. However, when journalists went through the 24 witness statements they had in total, there was no mention of this. Mm-hmm. Not one statement said that. And allegedly, the southern fuse box was the source of the fire. So if it was an electrical fault, this is where they're saying it came from. If it was in fact responsible. But the witnesses initially, as you remember, they saw the fire starting around the fireplace. Yeah. That's where they first ever thought, it's a bit odd, but then didn't think much of it. And that's not anywhere near the southern fuse box. That's in a different location. And photos from the scene actually show that the southern fuse box was pretty much left intact.
It certainly wouldn't be.
No. Yeah. That was literally one of the only areas of the ghost train where you're like, oh yeah, that's a fuse box. You could still tell what it was.
Oh, I don't like it because he thinks people are idiots.
Well, that's it. It's just kind of presuming people are stupid, and not all people are stupid. So this isn't adding up. But then also, technical experts said that if there was an electrical problem, the cars on the ghost train, the lights, the music, etc., wouldn't be working.
Well, yeah. Or, they'd be at least flickering or something.
Something
Like
would be happening, wouldn't it, An electrical fault would have affected the functionality of the whole ride, is what they're saying. It was a crude ride. There probably wasn't lots of breakers everywhere.
No.
So pretty much the whole thing would have gone down. And through photographs, we know, and witnesses as well, that lights were still on.
Oh, okay.
But there are photos showing lights still on whilst the fire's going. And cars were still moving. So there's electricity getting through there.
Yep.
It was still feeding power to the ghost train.
Okay, so arson's looking more and more likely.
It is a bit, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's just all looking... What initially seems like a horrible, horrible accident is just looking more suspicious by the minute, really.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So as we know, within hours of the tragedy, the crime scene was hastily erased, despite the fact that it should have been protected. So, we know, and experts have also said that it should have been protected, then examined, searched through and investigated thoroughly before any evidence could be processed and then a cause determined.
Yes.
It can't be sorted out in a few hours.
No, absolutely not.
It's not possible. It's not the way it's done. It just doesn't happen. But as soon as the last body was recovered, the crime scene was dismantled and debris removed. So any possible evidence was completely lost. It was removed, it was wiped away. And this would have been authorised by Detective Douglas Knight. So these are his orders.
Okay. Just for my peace of mind, do we come to a solution, like the truth, at the end of all of this?
It's frustrating.
Oh, fucking Nora. Okay. All right.
It's frustrating. So following the tragedy and during the inquest, the coroner reported that there were insufficient health and safety measures in place and the fire was likely caused by a cigarette butt igniting some litter within the ghost train.
Okay.
That's his suggestion. Obviously, you can guess that there's no health and safety measures in place at that point.
No, you could smoke anywhere.
You could smoke anywhere, but witnesses deny this and say nobody was smoking anywhere near the ghost train. No one was allowed to smoke on the ghost train, so if the park workers saw them, they'd, tell them to stop. None of them were smoking on the ride, and no one saw anyone else smoking. But obviously, any proof of this, or any possible proof of this, would have been removed when the crime scene was totaled. The older teen group who first saw the fire on the ride were all asked to go to the inquest. Makes sense, right? But none of them were called to give evidence. So first-hand witness accounts were not heard at the inquest. And in fact, they were described as witnesses who take this investigation no further, even though they were on the ride when the fire started and then stayed there to witness what happened afterwards. But apparently they were no help, which is really odd, I think. No, I know, really strange.
No.
Eyewitnesses, including ride operators, reported smelling kerosene at the ghost train in the same area where flames were first seen. So where this group of older teens had first seen them.
And again, if there was an accelerant used, if the crime scene hadn't been cleaned up, they would have found traces. Yeah.
Exactly. They reported this to the police. These witnesses were also at the inquest, but not called to give evidence. So, just odd.
Oh, that's so bizarre. Yeah, no, that... I've been to an inquest. I know a little bit about them and stuff like that through work and personal, but yeah, no.
Even if you were an alien from another planet and you came down and this was described to you, you'd be like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it wouldn't.
Like, even if you didn't know anything about the system, the justice system, anything, you'd be like, what?
Yeah. Oh, it's so bizarre.
Really, really strange.
Oh, no, I don't like it.
It's horrible, isn't it? It's a very, very haunting story. So, let's carry on with it, this haunting story. So 5 bikers were heard in the vicinity of the ride talking about using kerosene and matches to light the ghost train on fire. This was reported by witnesses to the police. They both described these bikers in great detail, and a search for these 5 suspects began right away. But within hours, the search was stopped, and the same witness was called, so that the boy who gave the first statement was called back to the station by different officers for a second interview. But this time, he was threatened to change his statement and charged with giving a false statement.
But he was threatened to change it.
Yeah.
And I take it he says I was threatened to change it. Yeah.
They speak to him on the documentary, and he's like, well, they threatened me. So, and when like I say, when journalists track this witness down and talk to him, he does reveal that he feared for his life, so he felt he had to change the story. He was a young teenager.
Oh.
The second witness that had also seen the same thing as him corroborated the details. She didn't change her statement, but she said, police did try and convince her otherwise. And it wasn't used in the investigation anyway. She still stands by the fact she saw what she saw. The details were correct, but she feared and still fears for her life then and now.
Fucking hell.
It's just mounting and mounting and mounting and getting more and more awful.
Yeah. And more questions.
I know. Well, that's the thing. There's so many elements to this story. And at the end, it does tie up slightly. But there's just so much going on.
Literally mind fucking blown.
So 7 separate people in total, including employees of Luna Park, gave statements to the police describing those same bikers in the immediate area. None of this information was followed up, and all the leads were just left to run cold.
Fuck's sake. I don't even think that's incompetence anymore, is it?
Oh, it's beyond that, isn't it?
It's so beyond incompetence on, this Knight seems like a dodgy fella.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, humans are humans, mistakes happen, but at this stage...
It's every single little thing is
my
either
God.
being stopped or something's been put in place to cause an obstacle, and
Completely.
it's him.
Wow. Oh, we shall see. So some officers spoke out in the docuseries saying that the investigation was frustrating for them. It was thin, it was too brief, rules weren't followed, no proper interviews or statements took place, and those that did were covered up. Okay, we are at 44 minutes. I am going to get this into one because it won't be enough for 2 episodes, so I am going to cram it into one. Okie dokie, just letting everybody know. On the 14th of June, which was 5 days after the fire, Detective Inspector Doug Knight actually called for more evidence to support the accident theory.
If you have to call for more evidence, that means there's not enough to corroborate.
Yeah, and they had all this other evidence that they'd completely ignored, covered up, and or just got rid of.
He's just a twat, really.
Yeah, this really is all sounding like a massive cover-up.
Yeah.
It's perverting the course of justice. Mm-hmm. And if this was arson, then those deaths are murder.
Yeah.
So, this is sounding dodgy as fuck, right? Mm-hmm. I know. It just gets more and more dodgy.
That's as dodgy as my back.
Or as dodgy as my reading skills.
Well.
or speaking.
And numbers.
And, yes. At the funeral of the schoolboys who died in the incident, there were a group of young girls who appeared to be absolutely distraught, to the point where one of the boys' mothers actually remembered it. Obviously, people are going to be upset at a funeral, but to her, it really stuck out. And as it turned out, these girls were supposed to meet up with the boys at Luna Park that night, but they'd been stopped by one of the girls' fathers because, and I quote, something was going to go down at Luna Park that night, and they couldn't go.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Her father was a man called Jack Rookland. He had links to organised crime, and he was known for this. As it turns out, Jack Rookland knew Detective Inspector Douglas Knight.
Well,
Starting to piece things together now, aren't we? You can ask a question.
Am I going to know, or are we all going to find out why?
Yes,
Okay.
but allegedly.
Uh,
You have to put some allegedlys in it.
okay. Whew.
So Doug Knight was also known. He had a reputation for being crooked, for fixing evidence, intimidation, and such like.
But if this was known, why is he still in the employ of the police force?
Well, because it's not, half the time, it's not one person that's corrupt, it's lots, isn't it?
Well, that's true. And I suppose things back then were so different to now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is it's no excuse, but it's the 70s, so it was sort of like 40 odd years ago. So there's no doubt about it, he was a corrupt police officer and he was put in charge of the Luna Park fire investigation. Above him was Assistant Commissioner Jim Black. He was also at the scene of the fire, giving out orders along with Doug Knight. Jim Black also had a reputation for being absolutely no damn good. Both men were allegedly being paid off by Jack Brookland, the girl's father, who was a criminal. And then there was also another fellow on the scene who was, along with these two shitheads, just basically fucking stuff up, and he was Deputy Police Commissioner Bill Allen, quoted as being the most corrupt police officer in any police force in the whole of this world.
Oh, wow. Okay, so, yeah.
Now, this guy was involved in bribery, protection rackets. He was a bad person and he was said to be capable of anything. They were all policemen of ill repute, brought together and allegedly paid off by Jack Brookland to keep something quiet.
See, it's so dangerous because people who want to exploit power or feel powerful and things like that often go into positions of trust. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, it's easy that for them... Is
that your stomach?
Yeah. Sorry.
I don't know if the mics picked that up, but just in case they did.
You know, it's so easy for people, you know, for them to lure people into a false sense of trust.
Well, they abuse their positions, don't they?
Yeah, and exactly. They go into abuse their power and, you know, feel untouchable, essentially.
Completely.
And to have their cake and eat it. And
those types of people are, you know...
Psychopaths.
Sociopaths, so that is what they seek out to enable them to do exactly what they want.
Absolutely. CEOs, a lot of them have psychopathic traits.
I mean, some people are high-functioning psychopaths and sociopaths.
Yeah, and a lot of them don't end up murdering people or, you know, things like that. They can keep it in check because they've still got bloody conscience or something.
But these three are working together for
fucking arseholes.
You know, they're all together, which is just, it's crazy. Yeah. So, okay, we know that there's corrupt police officers directly involved with this investigation. We know they're being paid off by this man, which is all organised crime in the background, allegedly. But we have got to ask the question, why? Yes, okay, this happened, but why did it happen? Yeah. Why on earth would they want to set fire to it?
Why did you feel it necessary?
Exactly. So I mentioned the site itself earlier and how Luna Park was situated on a prime location. Also, that the company at the time were called World Trade Center, who owned the park. They'd actually applied to redevelop the site and been turned down. So, you know...
Redevelop it into what, exactly?
I shall go on and tell you. So, with it being an absolute prime bit of real estate on the water, you know, there's lots of redevelopment potential. So, you know, housing, sort of other leisure facilities. At the minute, there's a amusement park taking up the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's fun for a lot of people, but obviously there's potential there to make an awful lot more money than a theme park would make.
And what is the root of all evil?
Money. Exactly, and that is the root of every evil in this story. So they'd been turned down, but, you know, it's obvious that money could be made from this land by developers. But it's owned by the government, and it is up to them what the land is used for. So it's almost classed as public land. So governments say, yes, no, you can or can't do this. Following the disaster, the fire at Luna Park, the Grundy organisation was one of several companies who were trying to bid for Luna Park, and they planned to keep the area as an amusement park, and they were the top bidders. as far as they knew, they'd won the bid. But mysteriously, the government decided to reopen the bids, sort of like last minute, and a company called Harbourside Amusements swoop in and they get the lease. Pretty much immediately, they start to auction off historical attractions, rides, amusements and artwork, breaking down Luna Park in selling the pieces.
Are they allowed to do that, reopen the bid, if somebody's already won it?
Well, they're the government.
Oh, even if they're, even if there's a contract, there'll be a loophole or something someone can jump through. I don't know.
They're the government.
Yeah. Well, also the root of all evil. Never mind.
Right. So the two directors of Harbourside Amusements were Hal Goldstein and Cole Goldstein, who were cousins of a man called Abraham Saffron. Abe Saffron, or Mr. Sin as he was known, was an undesirable character who had been investigated for prostitution, bribery, fraud and arson. And allegedly, he paid millions of dollars in bribes to police officers over a 12-year period,
Jesus,
giving him
Lord.
immense power because he had bought the police. So that's exactly what we're saying. This is a guy in a very, very...
He looks a bit like...
scary position, shall we say.
It's in his eyes and that weird mouth.
So yeah, we'll put...
It's a grimace, not a smile.
Photos on Instagram. If you Google it, obviously it comes up anyway. So at this time, this justice system was a complete joke. You've got bribery sort of to the police, but it's a 12-year period, and that's just what they kind of know of. Could have been longer, couldn't it?
Probably was.
And it was known to be a joke. This wasn't a secret. And although there had been many investigations going into sort of Mr. Sin's nefarious goings-on, they went nowhere. People were, and still are to this day, fearful for their lives because of the highly organised crime and therefore the effects that witnesses were what they'll say and do.
Yeah.
Which, that happens in lots of cases,
Is
doesn't
he
it?
still alive, Mr. Saffron?
Actually, I don't think so, no. No.
Oh, but there'll be people that have taken on his business afterwards. That then, yeah, okay, fair enough.
So this man, he was questioned numerous times about being connected with Luna Park, but he denied it every time, despite rumours suggesting he was always interested in the site and the fact that hundreds of his own arcade games had been installed at Luna Park when it was still a theme park, with all the cash from these flowing straight into his own personal trust. Also, the company who won control of the park following the fire, Harbourside Amusements, is not only run by his two cousins, Abe's nephew, Sam Cowper, just happened to be the financial director. There's quite a lot of connections there, isn't there? There's quite a few links.
You can follow the trail.
So, the contract for this site was awarded to a company with undeniable criminal connections. Mm-hmm. There's no way that when they were given this contract, people didn't know about it.
No.
So, it's just... Are you following this so far?
Oh, I'm following this. You can see what happened. Yeah, why the fire happened.
I feel like this will even surprise you, though.
Okay.
How many more people are involved. So, right, okay. I hope everyone is following this. It is a long, complicated story, but it does all make sense, sort of, in the end. The New South Wales Police Licensing Squad ran an inquiry into Abe Saffron's links to Luna Park, but has never seen the light of day. Their factual report concluded that if the matters contained in this report are found to support a strong inference of Saffron ownership or involvement in this company, then the question of the Luna Park fire needs to be addressed from a different perspective. Officer Steve Bullock, who was involved in this report, still stands by it, and he is quoted as stating that 100% Abe Saffron instigated the Luna Park ghost train fire. And this report was sent up to senior police, but they didn't do anything with it. So you've got outside people now looking at this and saying, this isn't right.
Yeah.
But it's still being ignored, for want of a better word.
Oh, I'm so frustrated.
So you've got more people looking at this. You've got the New South Wales licensing squad who found, and I quote, strong and even disturbing links between Abe Saffron and the company that won Luna Park after the fire, recommending further investigation. But a year later, the New South Wales Corporate Affairs Commission found that there is no evidence available to the delegates that suggests Abraham Saffron has any actual or beneficial ownership in Harbourside Amusements, apart from all the information we've just mentioned.
Well,
the fact that his family worked there, there's money coming from it, you know. So the National Crime Authority, who was specifically supposed to look at the possibility of police corruption, found that the police investigation must be categorised as grossly inadequate and that proper procedures were abandoned at a very early stage in the investigation. I mean, we could have told everybody that, couldn't we? Yeah. However, the NCA then summarises the report by saying there is no evidence that the inadequacy of the police investigation was due to dishonesty or corruption. To me, this makes no sense. It's literally a contradiction, I think.
Wait, what?
I know.
Oh my God.
It is absolutely infuriating.
Oh. Well, dang.
So, yeah, it makes no sense. I feel like that's a contradiction. And the NEC also failed to properly examine Abe Saffron's interest in acquiring Luna Park, writing that there was no evidence that Saffron was attempting to obtain the lease. What? There's so much evidence. There's so much evidence. Right, okay. We've got to hold on now. This is a long episode, by the way, just to warn you.
Yeah, but press pause if you need to go for a wee, make coffee, you know, do your thing.
But come back.
But then do come back.
Right, we've got to hold on now because it gets even more complicated.
Oh, Jesus.
I know. There's even more things involved. So I really hope everyone's keeping up with this. This is why it took me so long to write the notes for this.
Are you sure it doesn't need to be 2 episodes?
No, because there's not much left now.
Okay.
We're already doing 1 episode.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, it's going to be a long episode, but that's all right. Okay, so more evidence. Through phone taps, Mr. Justice Lionel Murphy, a High Court judge, was exposed as having connections to a solicitor, Mr. Morgan Ryan, who was a representative for Abe Saffron. Yet another dodgy connection. But he denied, and so did he... he didn't deny. He died. But he died. He didn't deny. He did deny it, and then he died. And so the inquiry into these allegations, until more recently, didn't go any further.
Okay.
So just to reiterate, he died.
He died. He did not... Well, he did.
And
he
also
denied and died.
So there's loads of investigations about this guy that's come from these phone taps. Number 27 of the many allegations made against this crooked fuck suggests Lionel Murphy, whilst he was a High Court judge, agreed with Morgan Ryan that he would make representations on behalf of the company associated with Abe Saffron to Neville Wran, who at this time was the New South Wales Premier, the top of the state. It goes no higher than him at this point in the country.
Right.
He's like a Prime Minister, basically.
Yeah.
So in short, in the aftermath of the fire, Neville Wran and Lionel Murphy colluded to obtain a lease for Abe Saffron of the premises known as Luna Park. The transcript evidence given by police officers who heard these phone taps were mysteriously shredded and tapes were destroyed. And apparently this was due to public threats that Neville Wran made, to the press on television, saying that he was going to send the office to jail for lying. It's like it gets more and more obscene and ridiculous. It really does.
My brain hurts. So
I know at this point so much is going on. So I'm just going to have another sort of almost like a summary of it and a look back. So. 3 senior police officers running this investigation were known to be corrupt. They were directly connected to mobster Abe Saffron. Abe Saffron wanted Luna Park. Lionel Murphy, the High Court judge, knew Abe Saffron. Murphy conspired with Neville Wran so that Abe Saffron's company could obtain Luna Park to redevelop the land. All evidence was either ignored, hidden, or destroyed. Mm-hmm. Another key piece of evidence, which was actually provided by Jason, who was surviving. Yep. He was the one that was pulled out of the car at the last minute. It's not quite clear when this evidence came to light, but at some point, as he's sort of investigating it after Martin Sharp, he was told face to face by a member of a biker gang that Abe Saffron gave the order to burn Luna Park down. When the same man was then interviewed by the investigative journalist on Netflix, the biker confirmed that this was in fact true.
Oh, okay.
So, all in all, it is one big, dirty, stinky conspiracy, and the corruption in this case is absolutely terrifying. And as of now, despite all of this, justice, as far as I'm concerned, hasn't been done. The inquest should be reopened.
Yeah.
But currently, the organised crime behind the Luna Park fire has not been reinvestigated. And all these people, most of whom were supposed to protect others, were allegedly responsible for murder, and allegedly they murdered for money, and that's it.
And got away with it.
So far. So, that's it wrapped up. It's a crazy, crazy story.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be so involved, so in depth.
I didn't expect it to go up as high as it did. I thought, okay, yeah, some corrupt police officers getting paid off.
Yeah.
But it literally keeps going higher and higher and higher to literally the head of the state.
Yeah.
The thing is, scarily, it's not that surprising because I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I don't trust the higher ups anyway.
No, of course you don't. Like I say, when it comes to voting and things like that, it's the best of a bad bunch, really, that you're trying to go for.
Exactly.
And everyone's got like fingers in many pies.
Oh, so many.
And a lot of people don't get to where they are without some sort of dodgy dealings. Absolutely. I mean, sometimes, yes, granted, they're not always as dodgy as this.
So dodgy.
But do you know what I mean? It's, yeah. Oh, no, I don't like that story.
No. So I just, again, a side note on the source. As I said, the Netflix documentary shows the witnesses taken back sort of in time, and they really do struggle to tell their stories, and the horror of the Luna Park ghost train fire is just incomprehensible. Jenny, the mum of the two boys and her husband who were killed, she's absolutely haunted by the fact that her husband got on the ride with her sons without her. She couldn't make any sense of it. She was like, why didn't he wait for me?
Yeah.
And Tony, who was the employee who went in and got some people to safety and went in and he saw the father, the sons and the kids, but he couldn't get to them. He literally cannot unsee that vision. It's burnt into his sort of brain. And it's heartbreaking to see him because he's in tears. He's just like,
he will feel, it would be like survivor's guilt.
Absolutely.
And like feel responsible.
Yeah. And there's, like I said, it just watching the family talk about it, the witnesses, it just jolts you into reality, and you cannot imagine it it doesn't get lost in that kind of weird film.
Yeah, you can't fathom it.
No,
it's not something that you'll ever get your head around.
It's just, and the fact you hear from first responder, literally so many different people who were involved in it from various sort of points of view. It's just, that is the disaster at Luna Park, the ghost train fire. Luna Park, there is actually still sort of a section of it there, but the land has been, majority of it's been redeveloped.
I suppose maybe the section's been kept there as like a reminder, like a memorial type thing.
I should have said, so the big face, there's a version of that still there, which is kind of like the entrance to a building, and then there's part of sort of something there, and it's still called Luna Park, but it's, not as it was So that's that.
Wow.
Sorry about that, but
No, well, this is why we're doing it. We're talking about these kinds of things.
yeah,
There's going to be some that are going to hit us a bit more than others.
exactly.
I will definitely give the documentary a watch.
Yeah, it's really good because it is only 3 episodes. They are long episodes, but they're just, obviously you know what sort of happens now, but there's so much more to see in it.
Yeah.
So I kind of haven't ruined it for everybody.
Well, I mean, for the listeners out there, if you need to go and listen to something a bit more lighthearted, then please do so afterwards.
Well, we're going to have a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Because we're going to do our random facts. And I know this is a very long episode, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So we've still got random facts to do.
Absolutely.
So, do you want to go first?
Okay. Let's see. Random fact. I'm a trained makeup and special effects artist, and I have had work published in America in an online magazine many a year ago. Now I can't stand doing my own face, and please don't come to me with Halloween or bridal.
Well, that
request.
took a turn, didn't it? That random fact. Didn't see it going that way.
I don't love it anymore. Like, it was my absolute dream, but I was in the wrong place. It's who you know. I didn't have the money to keep up with building the kit and everything like that.
Yeah.
It just, so yeah,
But you're still really good at it. Your makeup always looks awesome.
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Welcome. Do we have a random fact from Goobs today?
Let's see. So Mark's fun fact, as he's put it.
Fun. So
He
much
once
fun.
owned a TV which had been watched by the likes of Tom Jones, Plan B, Natalie Imbruglia, and many more. His housemate used to work at Rack Studios in London, who were replacing an old TV in the studio accommodation. So, yeah.
I'm presuming you don't still have that TV.
No.
No. Be out of date now, wouldn't it? I suppose.
He said it was a big fucker.
I remember how big TVs used to be. So, all right, my fun random fact, palate cleanser, is that I broke down in a custom Volkswagen bus on the Las Vegas Strip in front of Mike Tyson whilst filming an episode of Goblin Works Garage.
Awesome.
So we were filming sort of like we finished it kind of situation. The fucker blew up in front of Mike Tyson, who was on my left-hand side in a white convertible BMW with a young lady with him waving at us. And we were like, oh my God, that's Mike Tyson. And then boom, no more Volkswagen bus.
I wonder why that TV show ain't going no more.
Oh, yeah. It just sounds expensive.
What could it possibly be?
We literally pulled into one of the hotels on the Strip, left the bus, jumped in some cars and just went to the airport because we were still filming on the way to the airport to try and make the most of we worked hard on that.
So what happened to the bus?
I don't know.
You just abandoned it?
We just left it there. That was for the production in America side
deal
of
with.
things.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to it. I know that we nicked the harnesses, the racing harnesses out of it. We were like, well, fucking have them. And the gear knob. Because it had like an 8-ball gear knob, which was really cool.
Oh, nice.
So we took them. And we were like, fuck the rest.
Yeah.
See ya.
Okay, bye.
So yeah, it was pretty good.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great fact. Mike Tyson. Brilliant. Mm-hmm. Fab.
So, I mean, if you can try and end that on a positive note and
Or a lighter note, at
a
least.
lighter note. Absolutely. Well, if you have stuck with this episode,
Well done. Congratulations.
well done, congratulations, because of the amount of content. The fact I cannot speak and, just general unprofessional nature of myself. I wouldn't say us. You're more professional than me.
Well,
Although,
potty
are you
mouth.
still claiming that if there was a fire in a ghost train, you'd get out of the outside bit even though it was enclosed?
I get out the car and stand in the outside bit.
But you'd be trapped
in my head, I'm outside.
Sorry, but
If it's-
Cooper's face.
I think I've got this wrong in my head. I think I'm picturing something different. And do you know what? This episode has gone on so long
I'm so sorry.
that I'm just gonna not say anything anymore.
Well, I think Goober's actually he can find a picture of the ghost train.
And then what I will confirm after seeing the picture whether I would have stayed there or not.
Yeah. I mean,
because in my head it's out.
There are.
No, but here I can breathe.
Have you put? Well, no, you can't. Look at the flames, Alison. You wouldn't be able to breathe for much.
Listen, I'm not very
long.
smart, all right?
Anyway, we've talked enough about burning ghost trains.
If you would like to continue to listen to us,
what's wrong with you? Do you need help? Are you okay, hon? Oh, Molly's getting involved.
But yeah, if you want to stick with us, we appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, most importantly, download, comment, follow us.
Or if you've got any spooky car-related stories, send them to us at carsofthemacabre@gmail.com.
Yep. Head over to our Instagram at Cars of the Macabre. Give us all a follow. Today's episode, as per, has been brought to you by Park Lane Studios with the wonderful Goober.
Thank you, Mark.
Marky Mark. And yeah, make sure you tune in for the next episode. Not quite sure what it's going to be yet.
And go back and listen to the others if you haven't already.
And that's the threat.
I'm scared of Allie, so I would do what she says.
But until next time, stay spooky, bitches.